Some people don't fail because they lack intelligence, they fail because they think too much. Not a little thinking, endless thinking, analyzing every option, questioning every decision, waiting for the perfect moment that never arrives. And while they are still thinking, life moves forward without them. You have probably seen this happen. A person spends hours planning a message before sending it. Someone delays starting a project because they want a perfect strategy. An employee stays silent during a meeting even though they know the answer. From the outside it looks like intelligence, careful thinking, thoughtful decision-making. But underneath something else is happening. The mind is hesitating. And hesitation slowly becomes a trap, because the longer the mind debates, the harder action becomes. One thought becomes two thoughts become 10. Soon the mind is analyzing every possible mistake before anything has even happened. What if this doesn't work? What if there's a better option? What if I choose the wrong path? And just like that, the moment disappears. This is the hidden danger of overthinking. It feels productive, but in reality it delays the very action that would create clarity. Centuries ago, warriors faced a problem far more dangerous than delayed decisions. On a battlefield, hesitation could mean death. A samurai who paused to analyze every possibility would lose the moment instantly, so warriors trained their minds differently. Instead of thinking longer, they trained themselves to act sooner. A discipline known in Zen practice as Shikan. Shikan can be translated simply as just do it, but not careless action. Shikan means acting with full awareness, without allowing the mind to interfere with endless debate. The warrior sees the moment and moves. No hesitation, no internal argument, just clear action. Today we're going to explore how this ancient discipline works, because once you understand it, something uncomfortable becomes obvious. Many people are not stuck because they lack ability. They are stuck because they are waiting for certainty that will never arrive. This is the story of a man who nearly allowed his life to pass while he was still thinking about what to do, until a mentor introduced him to a rule that samurai had understood for centuries, a rule that destroys overthinking at its root. And once he learned it, everything changed. Noah had always been known as someone who thought carefully. When people around him rushed into decisions, Noah preferred to pause. He believed that if he analyzed every situation long enough, he would eventually find the perfect move. For years, that belief felt intelligent. In school, teachers praised him for being thoughtful. At work, co-workers described him as analytical. And Noah himself believed that careful thinking was the reason he would eventually succeed. But slowly, something began to change. While Noah was thinking, other people were acting. At the marketing firm where he worked, meetings were often filled with fast discussions and quick decisions. New ideas were proposed, projects were assigned, and opportunities appeared suddenly. Many times Noah already knew what he wanted to say. He had good ideas, sometimes even better ideas than the ones being discussed. But before speaking, his mind began running through possibilities. Is this the best way to say it? What if someone disagrees? What if I'm missing something important? So he waited. Just a few seconds longer, just enough time to think one more step ahead. And while he hesitated, someone else spoke first. The moment passed. This pattern repeated itself again and again. One afternoon, Noah watched a colleague present an idea to the team, an idea Noah himself had been thinking about for weeks. As the team began discussing the project, Noah felt a quiet frustration rise inside him. He had seen the opportunity first, but he had never acted on it. Later that evening, Noah went to the martial arts dojo he had joined a few months earlier. The training had become something he enjoyed. It helped clear his mind after long days at work. During practice drills, Noah performed well. His movements were precise. His reactions were fast. But when sparring began, when another student stood across from him, something familiar happened. Noah saw an opening. His opponent's guard shifted slightly. The opportunity was there, but instead of striking immediately, Noah's mind paused. Is this the right moment? What if he counters? That hesitation lasted less than a second, but it was enough. the opportunity disappeared. His opponent moved first. After class, Noah sat quietly at the edge of the training floor, replaying the moment in his mind. Across the room, the dojo instructor had been watching. The instructor's name was Master Sato. He walked over and sat beside Noah. "You saw the opening," Sato said calmly. Noah nodded. "Yes," he admitted. "But I wasn't sure if it was the right move." Sato looked at him for a moment before replying, "That is your problem." Noah frowned slightly. "My problem?" Sato nodded. "You are trying to think your way through moments that require action." Noah stared at the floor, realizing how familiar those words sounded. Work. Training. Conversations. The same hesitation followed him everywhere. For years he had believed his thinking made him careful. But now a different possibility appeared in his mind. Maybe his thinking wasn't helping him move forward. Maybe it was the very thing holding him back. After that conversation, Noah could not stop thinking about what Master Sato had said. You are trying to think your way through moments that require action. At first, the statement bothered him. Thinking had always been his strength. It was the way he solved problems, planned projects, and avoided mistakes. But the more he reflected on it, the more uncomfortable the realization became. His thinking did not only help him. Sometimes it stopped him. A few days later, Noah stayed after training while the other students were leaving the dojo. Sato was quietly cleaning the training floor. "Master Sato," Noah said, "if thinking is the problem, what is the solution?" Sato placed the broom aside and looked at him. In Zen practice, he said calmly, "There is a principle called Shikan." Noah had never heard the word before. Sato wrote 2 simple characters on a small board. Shikan. "It can be translated as just do it," he explained. Noah frowned slightly. "That sounds too simple." Sato smiled faintly. "That is because most people misunderstand it. Shikan does not mean acting carelessly. It does not mean ignoring thought completely. It means removing mental interference at the moment of action." Sato gestured toward the empty training floor. When a samurai saw an opening in battle, he could not pause to analyze 10 possibilities. If he waited for perfect certainty, the moment would disappear. So warriors trained their minds differently. They observed the situation clearly, and when the moment appeared, the body moved immediately. No debate, no hesitation, just action. Sato continued, "The mind is useful before the moment arrives. You can study, you can prepare, you can train, but when the moment appears..." He paused. The mind must become silent. Noah thought about his own experiences. During sparring, he always saw the opportunity. But before moving, his thoughts interrupted. What if this is the wrong move? What if there is a better option? And during that brief hesitation, the moment vanished. Sato seemed to sense what he was thinking. "The longer the mind debates," he said quietly, "the slower the body becomes." Shikan trains the opposite. It teaches the mind to observe clearly, and then allow the body to act without interference. Sato looked directly at Noah. "You are not slow," he said. "You are delayed by your own thoughts." Noah felt a strange clarity as those words settled in his mind. For years he had believed that thinking longer would lead to better decisions, but now he began to see something different. In certain moments, thinking was not the solution. It was the obstacle. And if the samurai had learned to silence that interference, then perhaps the mind could be trained to do the same. The question was whether Noah was willing to learn how. The next day, Noah arrived at the dojo earlier than usual. Master Sato was already there, standing quietly near the training floor. "You came early," Sato said. Noah nodded. "I've been thinking about what you said." Sato raised an eyebrow slightly. "That may be the problem." Noah smiled awkwardly. "Then tell me how to stop." Sato gestured toward the center of the dojo. "Stand there." Noah walked to the middle of the training floor. Sato stepped a few meters away from him. "Your training begins with something simple," Sato said. "When you see the signal, move immediately." "What signal?" Noah asked. Sato suddenly raised his hand. Noah reacted a moment later, stepping forward and performing a strike. Sato shook his head. Too slow. But I moved right away, Noah said. No, Sato replied calmly. You thought first. They repeated the exercise again. Sato lifted his hand. This time Noah tried to move faster. Still too slow. Again. And again. Within minutes, Noah began noticing the pattern. Every time the signal appeared, his mind tried to evaluate the movement first. Is this the correct response? What if I move too early? What if I misunderstand the signal? Each thought lasted less than a second, but that second was enough to delay him. After several attempts, Sato stopped the exercise. You see the signal clearly, he said. But your mind tries to control the action. That delay is hesitation. Noah exhaled slowly. So how do I stop thinking? You don't stop thinking, Sato replied. You stop listening. Over the next few weeks, the training continued. Every session began with the same exercise. Signal. Move. No hesitation. At first, Noah struggled constantly. Sometimes he reacted too late. Sometimes he moved incorrectly. Occasionally, he froze entirely. Each mistake made him more aware of how loud his thoughts really were. One afternoon, after a frustrating session, Noah sat on the edge of the training mat. This feels impossible, he admitted. Sato sat beside him. Your mind has spent years controlling every action, he said. Now you are asking it to step aside. That takes practice. The next stage of training became harder. Instead of one signal, Sato began introducing several. A hand movement, a step forward, a sudden sound. Noah had to respond instantly. The goal was no longer perfect technique. The goal was immediate action. At first, the results were messy. Sometimes Noah moved too soon. Sometimes he reacted to the wrong signal. But something interesting began happening. On the moments when he moved without thinking, his actions were smoother, faster, more natural. Those moments were rare at first, but they started appearing more often. One evening during sparring practice, Noah noticed something new. His opponent stepped forward. For a split second, the opening appeared. In the past, Noah's mind would have interrupted immediately. Is this the right moment? But this time the strike happened before the thought finished forming. His body moved. The moment passed. The action felt effortless. After the round ended, Noah stood still, surprised by what had just happened. Sato approached him quietly. You felt it, he said. Noah nodded slowly. I didn't think. It just happened. That is Shikan, Sato replied. The mind observed. The body acted. Noah began noticing this shift outside the dojo as well. At work, he caught himself hesitating during a meeting. An idea had just appeared in his mind. Normally he would analyze it first, but this time he spoke immediately. The words came out naturally. No one questioned him. In fact, the team began discussing the idea seriously. After the meeting ended, Noah realized something surprising. The moment he stopped overthinking, action became easier. Over the following weeks, he continued practicing this discipline. Small decisions first. Sending emails without rewriting them 5 times. Speaking up when an idea appeared. Making choices without searching endlessly for the perfect option. Most of the time, nothing catastrophic happened. Mistakes occurred occasionally, but they were small, and they were far easier to correct than the opportunities he had previously missed. One evening during training, Sato explained the deeper lesson. Overthinking feels intelligent, he said, but it is often fear wearing the mask of caution. Noah listened carefully. The mind tries to protect you from mistakes, Sato continued, so it delays action. But action is the only way clarity appears. Sato stood and walked toward the training floor. Shikan teaches one simple rule. When the moment arrives, move. Do not wait for the mind to approve. Because by the time the mind finishes debating, he looked back at Noah. The moment is already gone. Noah understood now. For years he had believed thinking longer would help him make better decisions, but in reality, his thinking had been stealing time from action. And life rewards movement, not endless analysis. From that day forward, Noah practiced the discipline daily. Observe. Move. Adjust. Again. The thoughts never disappeared completely, but they no longer controlled him. And slowly, the hesitation that had once shaped his life began to disappear. But here is something most people never realize about overthinking. It feels productive. When the mind is analyzing, comparing options, and searching for the perfect decision, it feels like progress is being made. But in reality, something very different is happening. The mind is delaying action, and the longer action is delayed, the harder it becomes to move at all. This is why intelligent people often struggle the most with hesitation. They can see too many possibilities, too many risks, too many outcomes. And while they are still analyzing the situation, someone else simply acts. The samurai understood something that modern life often forgets. Clarity does not come before action. Clarity appears after movement begins. This is why Shikan is so powerful. It trains the mind to stop debating and start moving. Because the moment you begin acting, overthinking loses its power. After several weeks of training, Noah began to notice something surprising. His improvement had not come from trying harder, it had come from changing how he responded to the moment before action. One evening after training, Noah asked Master Sato an important question. If Shikan means acting without hesitation, he said, "How do you actually train it?" Sato sat quietly for a moment before answering. "Most people think hesitation disappears through confidence," he said. "But confidence is unreliable. It rises and falls depending on the situation. Warriors did not depend on confidence. They trained a system." Sato then explained that Shikan was built on 3 simple disciplines that gradually retrain the mind. The first discipline was immediate movement. When an opportunity appears, the body must act before the mind begins debating. Most hesitation begins during the small delay between seeing the moment and deciding what to do. In that delay, the mind starts generating doubts. What if this fails? What if I make a mistake? What if there is a better option? Shikan interrupts this process. The moment the opportunity appears, the action begins. No debate. No internal discussion. Movement happens first. The second discipline was accepting imperfect action. Sato explained that the mind overthinks because it is trying to avoid mistakes. But avoiding mistakes entirely is impossible. Waiting for perfect certainty only delays action. Samurai understood this clearly. A movement could always be adjusted after it began, but a movement that never started could never succeed. So warriors trained themselves to act decisively, even when the outcome was uncertain. Action created feedback. Feedback created improvement. The third discipline was continuous awareness. Shikan was not about acting blindly. It required attention to remain present during the action itself. The mind observes the situation clearly. The body moves. And awareness remains steady so adjustments can happen instantly. Without awareness, action becomes careless. But with awareness, action becomes precise. Noah began applying these principles in small ways every day. At work, he stopped rewriting messages repeatedly before sending them. He trusted his first clear thought and acted on it. During conversations, he stopped waiting for the perfect sentence. He spoke when the idea appeared. In training, he stopped trying to predict every movement of his opponent. Instead, he reacted to what was happening in front of him. The results were not perfect. Sometimes he moved too early. Sometimes he made small mistakes. But something important began changing. The hesitation that once controlled him started losing its strength. Because every time Noah acted without waiting for the mind to debate, he weakened the habit of overthinking. Sato summarized the lesson one evening after practice. "The mind believes it must control everything," he said. "But action does not require control. It requires presence." He looked at Noah calmly. "The moment you stop waiting for the perfect decision, you become capable of movement. And movement," Sato reminded him, "is where real progress begins." The changes in Noah did not happen overnight. For a long time, the habit of overthinking still followed him. Years of hesitation could not disappear in a few weeks. But something important had begun to shift. This time, Noah was not trying to eliminate his thoughts. He was simply refusing to obey them. At the dojo, the difference became visible first. During sparring sessions, Noah noticed that the small pauses that once slowed his movements were beginning to disappear. Before, he would see an opening and then hesitate. Now, the moment appeared, and his body moved almost immediately. Sometimes the technique worked perfectly, sometimes it did not, but the hesitation that once controlled every movement was slowly fading. One evening during practice, Noah reacted quickly to an opponent's movement and landed a clean strike. After the round ended, he stood still for a moment, slightly surprised by his own reaction. Sato, who had been observing quietly from the side of the training floor, walked over. "You didn't think?" he said calmly. Noah shook his head. "No, I just moved." Sato nodded. "That is the beginning." The change did not remain inside the dojo. At work, Noah began noticing the same pattern. During meetings, ideas still appeared in his mind as they always had, but this time he no longer waited for the perfect moment to speak. When the thought appeared clearly, he simply said it. The first few times, his voice felt slightly tense. Old habits tried to return. His mind whispered the familiar warnings. What if this isn't the best idea? What if someone disagrees? But Noah had learned something important during his training. The mind always tries to delay action. So instead of debating with the voice in his head, he acted before the debate could grow. And something unexpected happened. Most of the time, the result was completely fine. His ideas were discussed. Sometimes they were improved. Occasionally they were rejected. But the catastrophic outcomes his mind had imagined never appeared. Over the following months, the effect became even clearer. Noah began finishing tasks faster. He made decisions without endless analysis. Projects that once sat unfinished for weeks began moving forward. The same people who once saw him as quiet and overly cautious now began describing him differently. Decisive, focused, reliable. One afternoon, while leaving the office after work, Noah reflected on how different life felt. The opportunities around him had not changed. The environment had not changed. The only thing that had changed was the speed at which he moved. He was no longer waiting for perfect certainty before acting. Later that evening at the dojo, Sato spoke to the class before training began. Most people believe intelligence comes from thinking more, he said, but warriors understand something different. He paused briefly. The moment you act, the world begins responding, but when you hesitate, nothing moves. Noah understood now. Overthinking had never made him wiser. It had only slowed him down. And the moment he stopped waiting for perfect clarity, life began moving with him instead of without him. For most of his life, Noah believed that thinking longer would lead to better decisions. It seemed logical. The more carefully you analyze a situation, the less likely you are to make a mistake. But over time, Noah discovered something that most people only realize much later in life. Thinking does not always create clarity. Sometimes, it creates hesitation. The human mind is designed to predict problems. It imagines risks, possible failures, and uncertain outcomes. In many situations, that ability is useful. But when the mind becomes too involved in every decision, it begins to slow down action itself. The person becomes trapped between possibilities. And while they are still searching for the perfect option, the moment quietly disappears. This is why the samurai trained differently. They understood that life does not wait for perfect certainty. Opportunities appear suddenly. Moments require movement, and clarity often comes only after the first step has already been taken. The discipline of Shikan teaches something simple, but powerful. Observe the moment clearly, then act without allowing the mind to interfere. It does not mean ignoring thought completely. Preparation still matters. Awareness still matters. But when the moment for action arrives, hesitation must disappear. Because hesitation slowly erodes opportunity. The mind believes it is protecting you by delaying action, but in reality, it often delays the very progress you are searching for. Noah eventually realized that overthinking had never been his strength. It had been his cage. And the moment he stopped waiting for the perfect decision, his life began to move forward again. The same choice appears quietly in everyone's life. Wait until you feel completely certain. Or step forward while the mind is still uncertain. One path leads to endless analysis, the other leads to movement. And in the end, progress belongs to those who move first. Action over hesitation, movement over endless thinking. The mind will always search for certainty, but certainty rarely arrives before action. Observe the moment, move when it appears, adjust as you go. This is the discipline of Shikan. Clarity does not come from waiting, clarity comes from doing. So when the moment appears, move. Before you go, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments, where in your life are you overthinking instead of acting? Now return to your path and take the first step.